Some amazing changes are coming to Mistweavers in 11.1 or Season 2 of The War Within. So that's what we're going to cover today. There were some data mined changes announced for all the healers. I might make a video going through all of the healers, but let's just talk about Mistweaver because there are some very good changes coming. Now, before we get into them and the tier set alike, I want you to think of what is the number one weakness of Mistweaver Monk. Just think of it. I'm sure there's a bunch of different possibilities of answers, but I'm pretty sure the most common answer is that our healing doesn't scale very well when we have less targets to cleave off of, or at least our damage doesn't, thus our healing doesn't. Well, they've made some improvements lately to that healing and to that target count or single target damage scenarios. And now this current list is starting to look up even further for those target caps. So our single target damage is going to see some buffs. Our tier set is weird. Let's go ahead and get into it. Let's start with a tier set. Now, every healer, if you haven't seen it, every healer, I'm pretty sure, has the same exact tier set, the same exact two-piece that is. Your healing spells have a chance to apply insurance, which is like this new buff that's tied to this tier set, to targets that heals them over 15 seconds. Then if they drop below 40% health, they're going to consume that insurance and get like a little pop heal. Pretty cool. I mean, if every healer gets it, I'm not too sure what to think of it yet. I haven't been able to get into the PTR to test it yet. Once I can, I will make a video on that. But insurance, they could have picked any other name. I just had a terrible job in the insurance industry. Just don't remind me of it. But this is like, I mean, it's okay. I think this kind of buff where it pops when they drop below a certain threshold will scale pretty well into later content. But moving on, there's nothing too exciting about the 2 set. Let's talk about the 4 set though. Whenever we cast Renewing Mist, we're going to apply an insurance on that target for 6 seconds. So a much lesser duration than the full duration one. And then the healing of all insurance buffs is increased by up to 50% in proportion to the coverage of renewing or your renewing mist has on you and up to 10 allies. So the way that I am reading this, and I could be wrong, but the way that it reads to me is that for every ally that you have a renewing mist on, it's going to do basically like maybe 5% more healing, this insurance buff, which is cool. You know, in Mythic Plus, you can get like maybe a 25, if it is that number, if it does scale pretty linearly up to 10 targets, you'll get like 25% buffs if you can have Renewing Mist on all 5 allies. So pretty cool. We already are pretty good at getting Renewing Mist, high counts. And I want to point out that we have had in the past some things that have really punished us for getting to high Renewing Mist counts. So lately they've been making a lot of changes like Rushing Wind Kick, for example, that reduce that punishment and give us other incentives other than just Invigorating Mist or Tear of Mourning. So I like this change. I like that. The only downside to this 4 set is that it only increases the healing of insurance. And once again, we don't really know how much this is going to heal, like on the overall meters. We don't know how much is going to be packed into the hot. We don't know how much is going to be packed into the pop heal. So we just have to wait and see what those numbers look like. Now, I do want to point out that although all the healers have like kind of similar tier sets, I want to compare it to Discipline Priest tier set. So their tier set, your allies with insurance or absorption effects receive 15% increased healing from you, not just from your insurance buff, whereas ours only buffs our insurance healing to them. So that kind of doesn't excite me. If it's only buffing the insurance healing, that's a little, a little lackluster. But this is cool because whenever we target someone with Renewing Mist, we'll just amplify our healing, which scales very well with talents like Lotus Infusion or Chi Harmony to just amplify our single target healing. Although I wish that it would amplify all of our other spells. That way we could really stack those buffs. But yeah, that's our tier set. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of all these tier 2 or all these season 2 tier sets. I think season 1 is the season for the boring tier sets, like baseline tier sets. Season 2 is when they should start to get kind of wacky and wild. And yeah, they are cooking, but I think they just, forgot the seasoning, if I'm being honest. But let's go and move on to the sexy stuff. The fun changes coming to Mistweaver Monk, and that is all of this list of changes. Now, starting off, monks in general, their paralysis is seeing a bit of a change. It now breaks based on a small damage threshold instead of any damage. To me, this is just nice. The way it reads, it'll likely be harder for your paralysis to just be broken, which is just good. Imagine you're fighting Miss Caller, Miss of Tyrannosaurus, and that fox gets broken. That might happen less often now. Pretty cool. But let's talk about just specifically Mistweaver. The dev notes, which by the way, the devs have been absolutely cooking up some bangers in the past few patch notes. So let's get into this. We're making several updates to Mistweaver focused on smoothing out their healing output on varying target sizes and shifting rotational damage priority to more intuitive space. When players should optimally use each offensive spell should be more obvious. This is incredible. We have been asking for this, or at least I feel like I have for a long time now. I have been asking for it in different ways, but they just keep swapping around the talents a little bit, or the damage priority a little bit, and it's just getting into a really good direction. So, starting off, we have some new talents. New talent, Emperor's Favor. This is a Shaylun's Gift talent, and it makes your Shaylun's Gift heal for 150% more. That sounds really cool, right? You get the 10 stacks on Shaylun's. This thing's gonna be cranking like it did back in Dragonflight. Well, hold on. And its cast time is reduced by 100%. Okay, it's a quick cast, kind of like a giant AoE lay on hands, right? No, because it only hits a single ally. So this is just a giant spot heal with a short cast, and you still have to stack it up. It's still Shaylun's Gift, but it comes with a downside of replacing one of our miniature cooldowns in Shaylun's Gift, basically our miniature AoE cooldowns, in favor of a giant spot heal, which I don't think Mistweavers are really lacking in spot healing in my experience, but I guess if there's a dungeon in the dungeon pool that just cranks out a dot on a single target, this is an option to take. But this would break your Soothing Mist if you have to take Soothing Mist, which you would on those kinds of dungeons. So I don't know. This one is very weird, and we still have to see where it's going to be placed on the talent tree because Shaylun's already has two talents that share a node right underneath it. Maybe it's going to split with Legacy now that I'm thinking about it, because this does have to deal with target counts. So yeah, it's probably going to split with Legacy of Wisdom. But then Dance of Wind has been redesigned. It now reduces physical damage taken by 10% and an additional 10% every 4 seconds until you receive a physical attack. Dance of Wind is honestly, it's seen some play. It has seen some play. It's weird that this is listed under just the Mistweaver category because this is on the monk tree, but maybe they just mean it's going to work differently for Mistweavers. But this worked with dodge chance. Now it's going to work with physical damage mitigation. So anytime you take a melee, instead of rolling that dice to just flat out dodge it, I guess they're just going to reduce the damage of it, is the way this reads. This one's a weird one. Dance of the Wind, sometimes it just doesn't make sense to me, but okay. Cool. Reducing RNG is what it looks like, but I guess it's always going to consume those stacks instead of rolling that dice and trying to dodge it. I don't know why that was needed, to be honest, but hey, I'm here for it. But now let's get to the fun stuff. Jade Empowerment. You guys know I love this talent. This is what makes our Crackling Jade Lightnings cleave. Let's go ahead and show it. Makes our Crackling Jade Lightnings cleave and do ginormous damage like this. Boom, you see it's 200k across the board, 200k, 400k when it crits, but it's even cleaving Crackling Jade Lightnings all around the board. It's been redesigned though, and this is actually very, very good. So they're going to increase Crackling Jade Lightnings instead of 800%. It's now increased by 2000%, so 2.5 times the damage, but only to its primary target. So its single target damage is going to be exceptional because you guys know I have been saying that this is such an actual good cooldown in an AoE pack, but it lacks versus bosses. It's honestly not even worth pressing against bosses at sometimes, but now it's going to do giga damage to its primary target or versus single target scenarios, or if you just need to burst one mob down, this is going to be excellent at doing so. But it will still cleave 4 additional allies or 4 additional enemies. It's just going to hit for 25% of its damage, so that would be 500% of its of a Crackling Jade Lightning's damage. So all in all, this is an amazing buff and exceptional. I guess we could do the math now. I have a calculator pulled up, but I didn't do any napkin math. So right now it's hitting 800%. 800 times 5 would be 4,000% of a Crackling Jade Lightning when you can hit all 5 targets. That's what it is right now in game. but now it's going to be 4 times 500, so 2000, and then plus the 2000%. So I guess with 5 targets, it is a, oh, I messed up. It's 4,000. So at 5 targets, it's the same amount of damage. It's just more of that damage is going to be funneled into one person, and then any target count below that, it's even a buff, because if you go to say we have 4 targets, the primary target plus 3 additional targets, that's going to be 3,500 right now, whereas before it would be 3,200. So yeah, it's just a buff all around. This is insane. Super good cooking. This is a yummy chef's kiss cooking of a buff. Now Yulon's Whisper's healing is increased by 100%. Look, guys, how many times did they have to buff Mistweaver for them to be meta back in season like what 2 or 3 of Dragonflight? Well, they're doing the same thing with Yulon's Whisper. How many times are they going to have to buff this thing before we actually take it? I don't know. Is this the time? I still don't think so. I'll have to test the numbers, but man, this thing is useless. Whenever you're channeling your Mana Tea, you're just breathing breath, a breath of healing. It's how often in a fight do you press Mana Tea when you need to do the healing? You don't. So this is always going to be passive healing during downtimes and raids. So it's just like, it's hard to find a place for this. But the coolest change coming, I guess I can skip it for now. Spinning Crane Kick's damage is increased by a further 30%. This is so much needed. I haven't pressed Spinning Crane Kick but probably 10 times this whole season, because it's just lost so much of its luster coming from Dragonflight, which is good. It was very dominant in Dragonflight, but it struggles to even find a target count where it's worth pressing, especially when you're playing Master of Harmony. But they did buff the healing that your Awakened Jadefire does from your Spinning Crane Kick from 90 to 110%, but it still just doesn't do enough damage to make use of that. So I'm happy to see that they're actually buffing its damage and just buffing Mistweaver's AoE damage in the meantime, or like at the same time. Super good change. I'm glad to see how this scales with the most recent buff to Awakened Jadefire. I guess now we can get into the fun change though. Blackout Kick. Now, Blackout Kick, it can cleave onto 3 targets, and they've been changing around how much of the damage is hitting the primary target versus how much is hitting the cleaving targets, a lot like how they did with Jade Empowerment. They did this recently coming into Season 1, and now they're further funneling more of that damage into our primary target than the cleaving targets, which is exceptional. So, Blackout Kick now does 75% more damage. You're maybe wanting to do a Chi-Ji Jadefire Stomp build in Raid just to mess around. Well, hey, now if you're hitting a single boss, you're going to be doing 75% more damage with your Blackout Kick. That is insanely massive. Super huge single target buffs. You're on a boss fight. Maybe you're fighting the City of Threads boss and you keep wiping barely. Well, now you might not. Your single target damage is going to be even higher. So super good. But I keep saying single target. Why do I keep saying single target? Well, they are compensate nerfing the cleaving damage, but don't freak out. It's still a net buff, just like the damage scaling of Jade Empowerment is. So let's do the math here. So the overall damage is being increased by 75%. So currently, if we Blackout Kick, if we hit 1 target, it's going to do 100% of the damage. If we hit 2 targets, that first one's going to hit 100% of its damage, and then we're going to cleave for 70% of a Blackout Kick. And then if we hit a 3rd target, it's going to cleave for another 70%. So it goes from 100 to 170 to 240, depending on your target count of a Blackout Kick. But nowadays, after this buff, the first one is going to hit for 175%, which is already a 75% single target buff. Obviously, that's what it says. But then if you hit 2 targets, what would that be? It's going to be 175% times 1.2 times a Blackout Kick, because now the cleaving is only going to do 20% of its effectiveness instead of the old 70%. So it's going to be 175 times 1.2, which means that our Blackout Kicks are going to hit for 210% of what they're doing right now if we're hitting 2 target cleaves, or 210% of what 1 Blackout Kick's going to do. And then what if we cleave onto 2 targets? Then that's going to be 1.75 times 1.4, which is 2.45. Now, once again, that is already still, even at 3 targets, gonna be like a 5% buff, which is fine, but the real juice is at single target when you're doing currently 100% damage. Now we're gonna be doing 175% damage. So huge buffs. We're gonna funnel more damage into those priority targets. We're still getting the cleaving bonuses, the chance to reset Blackout or Rising Sun kicks, the extra mastery procs. Like, we're still getting all the juice of cleaving, and we're still getting the same amount of damage and healing, but a little more actually. But we get to pick where that damage goes more often, which is excellent. Super good change. And if you go up to a pack that doesn't have a priority target, or you just want to evenly cleave your damage, hey, spinning crane kicks getting buffed too. So huge changes to our kicks. Now let's move on to Chi-Ji, which also has to do with our kicks. So Chi-Ji, let me make sure you guys can see that. Chi-Ji is our main Mythic Plus cooldown, and even saw some play in Mythic rating this tier, which is sick. It now causes 3 Gust of Mists per target instead of 1. So this says whenever you kick an enemy, hit one of your 3 kicks on an enemy, it's going to kick up a Gust of Mist, healing 2 allies for a proc. But now it's going to kick up 3 Gust of Mists and hitting 2 allies per proc, but it only activates once per Blackout kick and Rushing Wind kick cast, which is very important, because if, as you know right now, how we do it is we stack up our Blackout kicks, so they're going to hit 4 additional times, and they're going to cleave onto a bunch of targets, and then we press Chi-Ji and we unleash all of those Blackout kicks and kick up like a billion little mastery procs all at once. So how this is going to work now is, they say it right here, Teachings of Monastery Blackout kicks, which is when you stack up and those additional hits, those are still going to proc the mastery proc. So you're going to kick up 3 per Blackout kick that hits based on your stack. So if you stack it up to 4, you're going to kick up 3 per each one. And this is going to be very good for if you do get up to the full 4, because you're still going to kick up 15. 1 for the base Blackout kick, or I guess 3 for the base Blackout kick, and then 3 for each additional stack of Teachings of the Monastery. It's still going to work the same even if you have 3 targets to cleave on. But very importantly, what if you don't have those targets to cleave on? If you just have the single target, like say I come over here and say that this is like a single target dummy, and I have 4 stacks of my Blackout kick, if I unleash those, each of those Blackout kick hits are going to kick up 3 mastery procs, or 3 Gust of Mist procs, as if I had 3 targets to cleave on in current day. So they're really changing how even Chi-Ji works with single target, hitting on single target. So you're still going to get the same amount of mastery procs with cleaving. It's just you're now going to get more with single target. Super, super amazing change. I mean, I have said it before. Your cleaving crackling jade lightnings is a cooldown on AoE, and Chi-Ji is an exceptional cooldown on AoE, but it does lose a bit of its power. Now it doesn't really. It doesn't really. I mean, you're still going to be hitting less Blackout kicks, but I mean, they're going to be doing more damage because you're hitting a single target and it's getting buffed. So absolutely insanely brilliant changes, in my opinion. This also worth noting, this will also buff our raid healing if you do want to play Chi-Ji in raid, or if it's viable on single target. These are all good for single target changes, not just in Mythic Plus, but also in raid. Worth noting, just in case that becomes relevant at some point. Hopefully it does. But then let's get down to the final thing. Shaylin's Gift talent location has been moved up to above the final talent gate and now connects to the Focus Thunder, which is good. I mean, I feel like we're very cluttered in the bottom gate, so I guess that means that it's going to be kind of just moved up here. I don't think they're going to jostle around things too much. It's just going to sit like right about here, maybe right next to Chi Harmony, and there's also going to be a line connecting it with Focus Thunder, which is good. There needs to be more connections. I'm a big fan of that. But guys, I can't stress to you how good this is for Mistweaver. If you're someone who tried out Mistweaver but couldn't quite get the single target damage healing down, that rotation, your Chi-Ji just felt very lackluster when you only have a boss to hit on. Maybe you were just struggling against all of bosses or on Tyrannical Week. Now is the time. Our Crackling Jade Lightnings are going to be cranking first single target with Jade Empowerment. Our Blackout kicks are going to hit harder. Our Chi-Chi is going to kick up more mastery procs on single target. It's such an exciting list of changes. I just whoever came up with these, great job. It's not how I would have buffed this. It's better. It is so much better. And I always say this, you guys are always amazing at making changes. If there just happens to be a dev watching this, good stuff. But guys, what do you think of these changes? Did I interpret some of these wrong? Like what is it, Dance of the Wind? I still I still don't know why they changed that, but maybe I'm missing something. Let me know all of that down below in the comments. Hopefully I didn't read one of our Mistweaver changes wrong. I'm pretty sure I didn't. I'm waiting to get on the PTR. Usually I like to test these things before I make a video about them. It's just not open yet. But guys, thank you so much for watching. Who is excited to play Mistweaver Monk in Season 2? I am, and I am gonna try Chi-Chi in a Jade Fire Stomp build in Raid. Hopefully it's good. I mean, our single target damage profile just keeps getting better. Single target damage healing profile keeps getting better. Hopefully it's up to snuff. The Tierset, a little lackluster, and it's just going to take some playing around to see how it works. I don't think it's going to work with our rapid diffusion procs. I don't think it's going to work. It specifically says casting. I don't like that it only scales the insurance buff. Who knows how good insurance is? I don't know. But guys, thank you so much for watching this channel, for this video. I mean, also this channel. Thank you just for all the support to this channel. I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, take care.